Hey everybody, it's Ahmed Zahir. We're going to start this show in a few minutes, so please share it, get your friends to start watching. It's going to be another great interview with NGP Talks tonight with Susan Abulhawa. So please get your friends together, share the thing, and we will start in a few minutes. Hey everybody, it's Ahmed here. We're going to get started in just one more minute. So please share the link and we'll get started this NGP Talks event in a minute. Hey everybody, it's Ahmed Azad here. Welcome once again to another NGP Talks event. Let me introduce NGP to you one more time. So NGP is New Generation for Palestine. We are a network of Palestinian Americans looking to empower and support each other throughout the United States. We celebrate our culture. We disseminate our narratives, uphold our voices, advocate for justice as we can. NGP is a 501c3 membership organization. We encourage all Palestinians, Americans to join. You can do that at ngpalestine.org. You will see the link going across the bottom of the screen throughout this whole interview. We also have a political action group called NGP Action. That's ngpaction.org if you want to learn more about that. Well, we have done this series now for a few months, NGP Talks, where we get together and we talk to Palestinian Americans, sort of getting their story out there more to the world and letting more people hear about their wonderful accomplishments. We've had a bunch of guests so far, and I'll say it again. They've all They've all been women. I mean, Palestinian American men got to step up, man. I'm not, when we go out in the world and we look for interesting Palestinian Americans, it's all women, and that doesn't surprise any of us. It might surprise Fox News, but it doesn't surprise any Palestinians at all. Well, our guest tonight is an author, an activist. She works in the nonprofit world. She's a professional as well, and she's a Palestinian American who has really done some of the most unique things in our community. And our great friend Abulhawa. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Ahmed. You broke up on that last bit.
Okay, I'll do it again. Our great friend Susan Abulhawa. Hi, Susie.
Hey, it's great. Thanks for having me, Ahmed. It's good to be here.
Of course, my pleasure. And I hear dogs in the background already. You are calling us from Philly, right? You live in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm at my daughter's house actually right now. I'm usually in Bucks County.
Okay.
But my house is getting there's some, it's like that. You ever see that that movie, The Money Pit?
Yeah. Oh yeah, houses are money pits. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now. So I'm homeless at the moment, living at my daughter's, crashing on her couch.
All right. Well, speaking of homeless and Palestinians, let's talk to us a little bit about your origin story. We all know your work, your novels, a lot of your nonprofit work, but tell us more about Susie. So where did you start out? Where are you from in Palestine? Where are you born? How'd your parents end up where they are? The whole Palestinian thing. So tell us all about it.
All right, I'll give you just some skeletal stuff, but you'll have to be a little bit more specific with questions,
Okay, where were you born?
But so we'll start where I'm from. Well, actually, that's an interesting story because I recently, in fact, just wrote an essay that's I'm hoping is going to get published about that. My original village was called Deir al-Hawa, which is a West Jerusalem village. And it dates back to at least the 4th century during the Byzantine era. And sometime during the 16th century, 1500 something, one of my ancestors by the name of Hijazi was booted out of Deir al-Hawa. So there's two versions to the story, the legend, whatever. That one is that he killed somebody, and the punishment that was meted to him was basically being disowned, and his family, they agreed to expel him from the village. And in speaking with Dr. Salman Abu Sitta, he told me that that's probably the most likely story because that was the norm when somebody committed a crime like that. And then the other story was that Deir al-Hawa had remained a Christian village, and Hijazi fell in love with a Muslim woman, and he converted, and to marry her, and he was disowned. But whatever the story, he was disowned and he had to leave. And so he left and went as far as Jabal al-Tur, which is on the Mount of Olives. And at Jabal al-Tur, because he's disowned, he can't use his family name. He just went by Hijazi. Min wain inta, where are you from? And he said Deir al-Hawa, so it became Hijazi Abulhawa. And that's how we got our name. Which is actually how a lot of Palestinians who left their original villages got their names. People whose last name is, Majdal or Akawi or whatever it is, are people from those places who left. And then when they go to these new places, people will say, oh, Hadal Akawi or whatever. And so Hijazi spawned, of course, a huge family on Jabal al-Tur. And one of his offspring, who was my great-grandfather, who's also my great-uncle because my parents are cousins, they're second cousins, though. But although most of my cousins
that's totally different.
Each other, yeah. One of my cousins asked for my hand anyway, but that's another story. But my grandfather had this moment of international fame in 1957 because he was reported to be the oldest man in the Middle East. He was 136 years old. And the Associated Press verified his Ottoman era birth certificate, which is like tattered and whatever. And there's this silent footage of him on the Associated Press archives. So
oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, look, everyone has these stories, man. We come from a deep, beautiful history. Like,
right? Oh, Ahmed, you're freezing. I don't know if you can hear me.
We weren't just a bunch of, oh, all right.
I don't know if it's just me or if somebody could tell us if it's just me seeing you're freezing, but yeah, I see you now.
Okay, well, okay, good. All right, well, hopefully things stay clear. But yeah, I mean, we have this long, beautiful culture and history that not everybody, sometimes people believe this whole land without a people for a people without a land, that, we were a bunch of peasants, and a lot of us were peasants and farmers, but we also had a built up, beautiful civilization for hundreds of years. And that was taken away as well. All right. Or tried to take it away, I should say.
That's actually the point. That was the point of my essay that I said that I wrote. And my family were farmers. They were peasants. I mean, fallahin, totally. But that was exactly the point of the essay that I wrote that for. And the point of it was that, we all have these stories. We all have these incredible fabled stories. We have really deep roots, and we know that we can identify them. And yet we're the ones who can't be there. But, some blonde woman in Brooklyn is native there somehow.
Right.
My friend, you are frozen.
Yeah. 1 second. I think I'm going to fix this connection right now. Okay. Hopefully that's better and more stable now. Susie, yeah. Can you see me and hear me in a stable way now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So we do know that, so Abulhawa, though, now, for those of us who don't know that story, is a kind of known as a Jerusalem family. I mean, you guys consider yourself now basically a Jerusalem family?
Yeah, I mean, we have been. We've always been a Jerusalem family. I mean, we're not inside the old city, but we are on the Mount of Olives. Jerusalem, is surrounded by 7 hills, and the Mount of Olives is one of the main ones. So.
No, it is. I mean, the Mount of Olives is where you go to get the most beautiful view of the old city. It's the first place I go whenever I go to Jerusalem.
You know what? I know that spot that you're talking about. If you walk up, it's on. If you go up just a little bit on that incline, it's a neighborhood called Al Khilwe. That's where my family is, right there.
Oh, okay. All right. Very cool.
And my grandfather's house is taken over by settlers now. Beautiful old house in Al Khilwe.
أخذوها مفروشة, Susie.
أخذوها مفروشة ملعون أبوهم.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, but you didn't grow up in Jerusalem. Your family ended up somewhere else. Tell us a little bit about that story. Well,
I did live in Jerusalem for at least 3 years.
Okay.
So I went to Kuwait. I was born in Kuwait. My family went to Kuwait. I was there until like the age of 9 or 10. And then my grandmother actually snuck me into Jerusalem. I lived at Dar al-Tifl, which is actually an orphanage in Jerusalem for 3 years. And then after that, I came to the U.S. My father was here, and yeah.
So how old were you when you came to the U.S.?
13.
Okay, so really, so you came like right as like a teenager. You're right in that sort of like that in between. You didn't come old enough to have an accent, but you didn't come young enough to forget where you came from. So I mean, So you came here as like a 13-year-old Arab Palestinian immigrant. That's like what, 7th grade, 8th grade, something like that.
It was horrible. It was such a nightmare. So picture this, okay? I was at Dar al-Tifl. It's an all-girls boarding school, right?
Yeah.
We weren't around boys. Like, we just, I had that very conservative family, you know, you don't talk to boys, and like I was so awkward on boys, and you know, makeup was for old ladies, and I was very innocent 13-year-old. So I come to this country, and this is how naive and innocent I was. I was shocked that 13-year-olds were carrying pocketbooks. I was like, these girls are just like mamas, and we're wearing makeup like mamas.
I mean, yeah.
Boys, and there were boys, and they were all together, and it was a culture shock is an understatement. That coupled to the fact that I was really barely literate in English.
Right.
I mean, I could, you know, we studied English in school, and I actually could speak English already. Sorry, because sorry, my dog. Here, I just want to introduce Mika, everybody. Where's she? Hi, Mika. There she is.
Hi, Mika.
Okay.
Hi. Okay, so you didn't give your dog like an Arabic, you know, my aunt had a dog and she named him Zatar, like, you know, again, like a real Arabic name.
So هاي الكلبة تبعت بنتي.
Okay, got it. Are you saying that in Arabic so the dog doesn't understand you because you don't want to hurt her feelings?
أمريكية بتفهمش.
Okay. All right. So when you came to America at 13, was that Philly? Was that coming to?
No. It's the South.
Oh,
I'm going to tell you. So I didn't tell you the full. So when I was a baby, when I was a really small baby, I actually came to the United States because like I said, my father was here, my uncle was here.
Okay.
And my mother went back without me. That's a very sad story. But I lived with my uncle until I was 5 years old. So the first language I learned to speak was English, and I spoke it with a real Southern accent. I was, you know, in North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina. Okay.
And that's where we lived, and that's how I talked, and that's what the first language that I learned.
All right, stop,
anyway.
please. Stop. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll get back. I got to get back to that just to narrate the full story.
Okay.
So when menopause brain, I forgot. So, but anyway, so when I came back here, I could speak English. I couldn't really, but it took me a little while, but it was in there somewhere and it came out pretty quickly, but I couldn't read and write English.
Okay.
Except like on a first or second grade level, maybe.
Sure.
So English was the first language I learned to speak. Arabic was the first language I learned to read and write. And I had this big secret, you know, I was an 8th grader who was terrified of, you know, carrying a pocketbook, and shocked that, you know, girls my age were wearing makeup and we were all with boys. And on top of that, I couldn't read.
Right.
So it was like this enormous secret shame that I had. And I used to copy the entire front page of the Charlotte Observer every day, any moment I could get. I just, you know, I didn't know what I was writing. I just needed to feel like I was literate or something.
You mean copy like you would transcribe it?
Yes, by hand. We didn't have, you know, I would just, you know, every word for word. And some of the words I would recognize, some words not. And like after about 6 months of doing that, something was clicking in my brain and it started to make sense. I wasn't doing it actually to learn English. I was doing it to feel like not to feel like an idiot, you know, like to feel like I could. And actually to this day, I have this weird habit of just like constantly doodling and writing whatever. And I think it's from that. But anyway, so so it was in North Carolina that you know, that I started out, and that's where I came back to. But when I came, so my grandmother had snuck me into Jerusalem, and so I was undocumented in my ancestral homeland. And at the age of 13, you're supposed to have IDs in Jerusalem. Before 13, you weren't required. And then once you hit 13, you had to have an ID, and I didn't have an ID. So they kicked me out, and that was why I ended up coming to the US.
So, but you were in, okay, and then you spent some years in Kuwait. Now, Kuwait was especially during that time, a center of lots of Palestinian life and activity,
Oh,
and
yeah.
all the way until 1990. And was Kuwait a place where you sort of built any of your Palestinian identity? Was that something that was really stressed when you grew up, when you spent some years in Kuwait?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And so it was stressed, not in a political way, not in a way that, like, my family wasn't instilling in me the need to struggle and the need to fight for our homeland, the need to go back. But my grandmother and all my aunties and everything, taught me how to roll grape leaves and carve zucchini, and how to cook, and how to do tatriz. So our life was a Palestinian life. I mean, we had all of our traditions and the things that we did as a family were Palestinian. The songs, the weddings that we went to were Palestinian. That they depkid. So our cultural milieu was Palestinian. And but it wasn't as politically Palestinian as I wish it had been. I had to kind of develop that on my own. Come here, Mika. So part of that was because I think part of the initial seeds that were planted in my head came from living in Jerusalem.
Right.
So I was there just very shortly before the first Intifada. And the Intifada didn't just come out of a vacuum, right? There was years of resistance and political activity that led to finally that eruption. So having general strikes was the norm. And I didn't understand really any of it when I was younger. Like I understood like the broad brushstrokes, but I didn't understand. I mean, I knew that, I understood that we were occupied. I understood that those soldiers weren't part of us. And during general strikes that the schools would strike, the students wouldn't go to class. Right. And so a lot of the older girls would refuse to go to class, and the Jaish, the army, the soldiers would come into the school and drag some of them away. And there was one, I had several moments there too. Like there was one moment when I was actually just kind of splashed out of a pool in Jerusalem. So my cousins took me to, I lived at Dar al-Tifl most of the time, but I could go, on weekends or holidays to my auntie's house and stuff. And my cousins took me to this public pool in Jerusalem, which had, Jews and Arabs. And I wore a bathing suit. And so I just went in the pool, and I just was playing with these girls, and they were playing with me. And then they realized, I guess, at some point that I wasn't Jewish or wasn't Israeli, and that I was an Arab. Mm-hmm. And they just, started just splashing me out of the water, just calling me names and things like that. Mm. So that was kind of traumatic. And my cousins tried to stand up for me.
And you're like, how old?
I was like 10 or 11. Mm-hmm. 11. And actually, those same two cousins, on a separate incident, they came to get me from the school, and they were walking me back to go to the Mount of Olives. We took this bus in Jerusalem, and we were stopped along the way by a group of soldiers. There were like 4 or 5 of them, and they just wanted to have fun, I guess, with us. And they made my cousins, they told them the only way they were going to let us go was if they had to sit across from each other, and they had to spit in each other's mouths. And if they could only let them go when they got a goal, right? And so I remember that, and my cousins, I peed myself. And my cousins were so humiliated, I think. And I, in hindsight, I didn't understand, but I think their humiliation because I had witnessed it. And so those were things that, it was weird how I comprehended it, because on some level it was normal. It was something like, fuck, like, oh, I came across a spider and I just had to get through it. Like it was something normal about life. And on the other hand, I understood that these are the bad people, So yeah. And so when I came to the US, I didn't have any kind of like paperwork. I didn't have green card. I didn't have anything. Right. And I didn't know that, right? Like the adults put me on an airplane. It was that, this was back when like unaccompanied minors was just a new thing. Yeah.
They just throw you on a plane.
Yeah. Well, there was always a nice stewardess or somebody who went with you, but It was weird. Like I was able to get, I got to the United States, and I think I think it was New York. It was one of the international airports.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. They pulled me aside, and basically that was when I found out that I didn't have a passport and I didn't have a green card or whatever those things were. And, but I could speak English with this amazing Southern accent.
Oh, this is where North Carolina paid off.
Yes. And so it kicked in. I was like, wow, I need to do something. And there were two immigration officers, and they were very kind. And they were asking me questions. And then at some point I said, because they were basically telling me that I don't have permission to come into the country.
Right. And
so I said, well, but what about school? I'm going to miss school. I got to get home. And so I don't know, maybe on some level they thought, this like Southern hick can't be a foreigner.
Right.
Something. I don't know. But they were really nice, and I could tell that they wanted to help me or whatever. And they gave me this piece of paper, and they said, make sure you give this to your father, and he has to show up. He has to take this to court or something. I don't know. So I did as said, and that's how I got here.
Wow. And wow. I mean, first, thanks for sharing all those stories with us. I know it's not easy. I mean, experiencing that kind of discrimination and racism and getting to the other side of it is not easy. So thank you. But, what were you then? I mean, just so I understand, you were some sort of like legal resident of Kuwait. Was that your official status? Like, what was your status?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I was a kid, but so my family had iqameh, is what it's called, iqameh.
Yeah,
so by default, being a child of Palestinians who have an iqameh, I had an iqameh in Kuwait. My parents, or at least my father's side, my dad was registered with UNRWA as refugee from the '67 war.
Yeah.
And at one point, I had some kind of residency somewhere in right. Jordan or Kuwait or yeah.
I mean, for anyone like who listens, we Palestinians sort of just like casually have these conversations, but it's like ridiculous. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing to talk about, and what we try to tell people is that it's one of the things that makes Palestine a little sort of more unique than other situations throughout the world where there's discrimination and Jim Crow stuff in a few places throughout the world. But what makes Palestine really unique is that we have these 5 million people that live in the West Bank and Gaza, and then of course millions of Palestinians throughout the world that are literally citizens of nowhere. And it creates these crazy situations. Susie, did I lose? Oh, okay.
No, I'm here. I just had to let the dog out, but I could hear.
Okay, good. So, you know, we have this just alternate universe type stuff, you know, and you're talking like a 13-year-old showing up to immigration, you know, and a citizen of nowhere. I mean, it's craziness. All right. So now we know basically the origin story of superhero Susie Abulhawa. We understand. Okay. You know, we understand everything for the most part now. And let's breeze by the part where you tried to become a regular Arab, like, you know, or scientist, and you got your professional degrees and all that kind of stuff. Okay, we all did that. I was a chemistry major when I first started in
yeah,
college.
right? What is that? It's like all of these Arabs think that there's like only like one or two professions in the world. That's and nothing else matters. Like, you either are a scientist, a doctor, you can be a lawyer if you want to, but not anything.
I mean, if you want to if you want to bring shame to us, you can be a lawyer. But we prefer doctor, engineer. You know, whenever I do events, you know, I do a lot of events for this group called the Arab American Association of Engineers. And I start the event. Sometimes they have some white people at the event, and I start the event by letting the white people know that we're sitting in a room full of Arabs who disappointed their parents by becoming engineers.
Yeah.
And you know that doctor is like the minimum. Everything else is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
But okay, so you go down the road where you're going to become a scientist. You
doctora. First, I was going to be a doctora. You know. Right.
So you go down the path where you're going to become a scientist. You do that for many years, and then you become a novelist. I mean, come on now. I mean, come on, Susie. I mean, so you know what was the? It's not easy. First of all, I don't even want to think about how difficult and painstaking and long writing a novel is. But you know, what was the click? What was the thing that said, all right, I got to stop doing this. I got to start doing this.
It wasn't a click. It was, you know, I mean, I kind of just do things sometimes and without planning. Usually, I just kind of go from one disaster, self-made disaster, to another, because I do things without thinking, you know. But like Playgrounds for Palestine, for example, you know, I wasn't really. If I had stopped to think about doing that, like all that was involved, and I would have never done it, right? But I just, you know, I'll jump into things, and the same thing was with this novel. I actually didn't understand that I could be a writer.
Your dog did. It's okay. Okay, for those who are just joining us while Susie takes care of her dog, right,
I'm good. My daughter just walked in. So
okay, good. You displaced them? Okay, good.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were just greeting her at the door.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, so you were talking about how, you know, getting into writing your first novel.
Yeah, so I started writing op-eds and letters to the editor during the second Intifada, and to my surprise, they were picking them up. And then I just, you know, I did that for a little bit. And during the massacre in Jenin, I was an activist at that point already. And I was, you know, unbeknownst to me, really pissing off the bosses at the drug company that I worked for because of the op-eds and things that I was writing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about this, Leslie. Like, Natalie, can you help?
Oh, that's Natalie. Natalie, can you take the dog somewhere, please?
Yeah. Do you hear that? That's Ahmed.
We're trying to do something professional.
Yeah, we're trying. The world is watching us right now.
This is live on the internet.
I apologize to the internet.
That feels disingenuous.
I think it is too. Yeah.
Okay, so and for people who just so everyone understands, you're talking about you're getting more active during the first Intifada politically. That's like 2000, and then the massacre in Jenin happens in 2002, And in between that is 9/11, which also shakes up everything. Okay, and then and so now you were at the part where the massacre in Jenin had happened, and you were continuing sort of like your political work, and it was pissing off some of your employers.
Right. So I went to Jenin. I actually took my measly 2-week vacation, went to Jenin, left my daughter with her dad, went there. It was really kind of just a life-changing experience. I mean, you kind of grow up as a Palestinian, especially after, during the Sabra and Shatila massacres, you see photos and you know things. You don't know how you know them. But then you get there and you see it up close and personal and you smell it. And and it was, it was just something that just, you never forget. And I came back and I felt such a cognitive dissonance being in this country and having all these images from Jenin. I mean, we were literally digging bodies out from under the road. I mean, I'd never done anything like that before. Right. I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never smelled anything like that. I'd never spoken to people who had lived through something so terrifying. And so I come back to the United States with that, and I'm back in this corporate sort of, company, and people and their concerns seem appallingly trivial to me. And, I just, and by that point, I had actually won a writing award. It was the Leeway Foundation writing award. And I was feeling confident about writing. Hanan Ashrawi had actually written a letter to me after reading one of my essays, and she said, "This is really stunning. Have you ever thought about writing a novel?" And so I had these ideas in my head. So I sat down actually, and at first I started writing an essay. Actually, before that, sorry, I got fired from my job eventually. I mean, all the writing and the Zionist bullshit kind of caught up to me, and it was a whole sort of setup that they did, and I sued the shit out of them, by the way. But I didn't have a job, and I was a single mom, and I had no family in this country. I had no money. I was broke. I had I was terrified, and I had Jenin in my head. And so literally it was December the 22nd. I will never forget. I got up the next day and I just started writing, and I thought I was writing an essay about Jenin, what happened. And I just kept writing. I mortgaged my house, pretended like I still had a job, and I mortgaged it. And so I had some money. I got to be homeroom mom for a couple of years when my daughter was young, to just be there instead of rushing her to school and to daycare or whatever. I was able to take a breath, and I decided I was going to write this, one way or another. And again, not really thinking about, just again, like starting Playgrounds for Palestine. I wasn't thinking about, I got to file IRS papers, I got to get a board, I got to do this, I got to file taxes, and I just sat down and did it, and it was the weirdest thing because I just really believed that I was going to write a novel, and now I don't I can't tell you where that belief came from, but yeah. And in hindsight, I realized that I was always a writer. Even when I can now look back on my life and remember, writing Arabic poetry. And in high school, even in the United States, I won a couple of writing contests in just English class. So after Mornings in Jenin was published, of course, it was a long road to publication. I had to go back to work, and I was back in the industry, but I went back as a medical writer instead of a researcher. And
you mean art didn't make you rich?
Oh, yeah, no. Are you surprised?
No, trust me, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. No, nobody becomes a writer to get rich. Nobody becomes an artist to get rich.
Yeah.
You do it because, yeah.
Yeah. And Mornings in Jenin, it sort of sat there for a while and then gained sort of popularity and a little sort of like cult following over time. And then of course and then now your latest novel, Against the Loveless World. I don't want to get too much into the novels for two reasons. Number one, I didn't read the latest one, and also, but I will. I promise. But we also want to talk more about you. I want to talk about a couple more things. But for those who are watching, if you're just joining, you're watching NGP Talks, New Generation for Palestine. We're with Susan Abulhawa, author and activist, joining us here today. There's a couple people in the studio that I'm going to bring into a minute and join on screen. If anyone else, we put some of the we put the link. I'll put it one more time in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. If anyone wants to join, please go ahead and click on that link. You can come in and ask a question live on the air with Susie. But real quick, Susie, before I get to the people in our room here to ask you questions, tell us real quickly and just promote for a second, if you could, Playgrounds for Palestine and the Palestine Rights Festival, two amazing community initiatives that you founded.
So Playgrounds for Palestine, of which Ahmed is a board member, by the way, was an initiative that we started in 2000. And Ahmed is actually the one who chose the name. I didn't know what to call it, and he's the one. I credit him with the name Playgrounds for Palestine. It has always been a labor of love, where we remain an all-volunteer organization. We raise money throughout the year, and we use whatever we raise to build playgrounds for Palestinian kids. And we also support various children's programs as well. We like kindergarten, skate camps, summer camps, summer circus camps. We're doing this program with the Palestine Animal League, where which is a wonderful organization started by Ahmed Safi, that teaches children to it's really kind of changing the attitudes toward street animals, cats and dogs and donkeys, and working animal things like that. So anyway, Playgrounds for Palestine is just a joy.
Well, let's brag for a little bit. So, I mean, how many playgrounds has Playgrounds for Palestine built for Palestinian children around the world?
Yeah, honestly, I've lost count. We're over 50 something. Yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know, that's the core of the work that we do and Susie leads us through, which is we raise money and we build.
Hanan, you're right. I got it. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, there's a wonderful board.
A whole board. Yeah.
Of all women and me. I really don't do much, and every now and then I try to raise a little bit of money. But we basically raise money and build playgrounds for Palestinian children. It sounds so simple, but it's so impactful, and we've seen how impactful it is. And just to give a little plug, go to Playgrounds for Palestine. You yourself can go and donate $12,000-$15,000 right now, and that builds a playground. I mean, people don't understand how easy it is. $12,000 builds a playground, and it builds a playground for Palestinian children, or start a campaign with Playgrounds for Palestine. It's a really, really wonderful organization that we're all proud to be a part of. All right, and then the Palestinian Rights Festival. It was going to be you came up with it in 2019. It was going to be a live festival, March 2020. In New York City, a Palestinian literary festival, bringing people from around the world. Oh my God, Susie, it was gonna be awesome. There was gonna be people coming from everywhere, converging on New York City, and then of course, Corona. I mean, you were one of the first victims of Corona, but then of course you redid it virtually in December. That's not, I've put together some comedy festivals. It's not an easy thing to put this all together. What made you, what vacuum was there, or what thing was missing that made you say, you had to go do this huge Palestinian literary festival?
So a couple of things. So first of all, I've always wanted to have a Palestine literature festival. However, this particular, I was actually invited to help somebody. It was a group of allies, actually. They weren't Palestinian, who wanted to have a Palestine literature festival. And it was going to be a small thing in New York, and they asked me if I would, help them with it. And I kind of came on board with a completely different vision, which, to their credit, they all, they accepted. And I, because I think, I never want to allow Palestinian art and culture and literature to be subordinated to trying to deliver, to make a political point that allies want to make, I guess is what I was trying to say. And they all understood and respected that, like we have this extraordinary culture, this beautiful heritage that predates Israel by, thousands of years.
Right.
And it's epic in its own right. It is not, it's not predicated on our proximity to Zionism. It's not predicated on our opposition to Zionism, although
right.
that is, that's a contemporary theme of most of our cultural productions, and with good reason. But anyway, and I also wanted to make sure that we had Palestinian writers who write primarily in Arabic, who live overseas, because I feel like a lot of writers, Palestinian writers who write in English, don't know them, and like we don't know each other. I only got to know and meet them because of going to literature festivals in the Arab world,
right?
And that's the magic of literature festivals, and also like introducing their work to American readers as well. So that was one of the the biggest goals that I had, that I brought to this, and it was well received, and we had a really great working group. It was, I mean, you saw it. It wasn't the kind of thing that one person can put on. It was a huge collective effort. We had to raise money. So of course it was through the generosity of individuals and organizations, NGP being one of them. It actually, in a way, having it virtually ended up being more epic, because we had people literally from all over the world.
Yeah.
Just watching and participating, and so many people told us that it was like for the first time we felt like a cohesive society. Our people are so fragmented.
So let me ask you the $1 million question then. So is it going to happen again?
Good question. Yes, we probably. Our plan is to do something in 2022. The pandemic is still up in the air. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But what can I say? Inshallah, it's our wonderful word.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, if anyone wants to join us, the studio link is in the comments. But I'm going to start to bring a couple of people in. Let me bring someone in. He looks like he has your last name. I don't know if you know this guy, but let's bring him in. We have joining us, I don't know from where, but Nasser.
I know Nasser.
Nasser, center yourself in the screen a little bit. Hopefully you can see yourself on the screen. Get in the center of just move your phone a little bit. There you go.
Habibi Amir, I'm from Jersey, baby. Where you from?
Oh, we're both from Philly, bro. You're basically a suburb of us, bro. Jersey's either a suburb, it's either Philly or New York,
That's correct. Suzanne, how are you, Habibti? That's Natalie. We're so proud of you. We're so proud of all the hard work you do. I have to step in. I have to join in. But we are so proud of you. We are cousins, and the whole family, you won't believe how the family is proud of you. Sort of the whole Palestinian community in Jersey. Keep the good work. Your books killing it in the market. It's just like everybody's reading the books. Everybody's giving these books, and we're giving these books as a gift. I'll be honest with you.
Aww.
So keep the good work, and we love you so much. And hopefully hopefully you gotta come to Jersey, Suzanne. Don't forget, we're still on a day for Knafa, okay?
I'm there, Nasser. I have to say this really means a lot to me to hear because, I grew up in this country with no family, and there's huge family in DC and Jersey, and we don't know. So, I mean, that's. I would love. We have to do some kind of a family Abulhawa, reunion, and just
you are
distract
welcome
the
anytime.
or something.
Anything you need, you are welcome. We're just a phone call away from you. So
thanks, Nasser. Thanks.
Give us a buzz, and we'll be there. I love you all.
Thanks.
Love you.
Nasser.
As always, Habibi. Good seeing you, and hopefully we'll see you soon, inshallah, in Jersey.
Inshallah. Thanks, Nasser. I'll try my best. I mean, I don't come to Jersey. I only come to Jersey if I get paid. But thank you so much for that. All right, we have Mazen with us. Mazen, are you? Can you turn on your video if you want to come into the stream? I know you joined us a while ago. Mazen going. Oh, there we have Mazen Rasul, a member of NGP, joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Mazen, what's up?
Hi, Amir. Hi, Susie. Thank you very much for joining us. I just wanted to join here and say that the December event, the Palestinian Rights, was honestly the best festival or event I've attended online. And I'm glad it was online, actually. I think a lot of us who attended, if it was in New York, probably could have not joined. So I hope you guys keep it going online, keep it going every year. And it was really awesome. Everything about it was awesome. I just hope you guys kept the videos for a little bit longer because I wanted to see some of the sessions I missed. And they just took them all down like a week or two after they put them up.
No, they're all there. They're all there. And also they're on our Facebook page. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I logged in and it didn't show it to me.
So our Facebook page, unfortunately, we had this Facebook page for 2 years and it got taken from us. But so we had to start over. We got the name at least, so we had to start a new Facebook page. But all of the sessions are there. And they're also the original platform is still up from what I understand. It's not supposed to be, but it still is. So you can view them there. But please do like our Facebook page because it really sucked to just have that stolen from us like that, and with all of our followers and having to start over. So. Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and share the Facebook page in the comments. But I think also some of those videos, Mazen, are they have a YouTube page too. That's where I was able to download the video that I was in. So I would encourage people. It's a great point by Mazen. I would encourage people to go to the Facebook page for Palestine Rights. The PalestineRights.com thing is still up, and on YouTube. If you're resourceful, you can. Everyone can go out. I would really encourage everybody to watch these things again. And like Mazen said, it was an amazing. It was
awesome.
All right, Mazen. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
All right, see you. Bye bye. All right, let's go to Tarek. Tarek joining us. Hey, Tarek, how are you?
Hey, good evening, Susie. I cannot believe I'm talking to you. Big fan of all your books here with me.
Aww.
By the way, I got to learn about your books from a British friend from England. She knew I was Palestinian. She said, Tarek, there's this book's called Mornings in Jenin. You got to read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. Proud of you, proud of your work. I have a question for you. So I read somewhere that one of your books is going to turn into a movie. Is that true, not true?
Yeah, well, so this has happened twice. So back, about, I don't know, 9 years ago, the option was purchased. The producer who purchased it ended up passing away, and the rights reverted back to me. Now there is, it's possible, it may, I don't know. It's still being talked about. Who knows? But if you know our producer.
I will, but it will be a hit. I can tell everybody that. Thank you so much.
Just so Tarek, when she says, "Do you know a producer?" That means do you know somebody with a lot of money that's willing to make the movie? That's what that means.
Hey man, I'm from Michigan, so you know that.
Tarek, where are you joining us from?
West Bloomfield, not far away from you.
Oh, okay, Susie. That's the really fancy part of the Detroit suburbs. Okay, that's where I'm betting he's like a doctor or a high-ranking engineer. Pharmacist.
See,
I knew it. Listen, I know my people, Susie. All right, I know my people. Tariq, where are you from in Palestine?
Haifa.
Haifa, yeah, Ahlian.
When I born and raised in Syria, I came to the States about 15 years ago. So the moment I got my passport, went there, visited, man, it was amazing. SubhanAllah.
Tariq, you didn't visit, you returned.
You know what? You're absolutely right.
You didn't visit.
I think, والله I'm taking from your show. When I went there, I was hesitant لأنه واو I'm Palestinian. This is بلدنا تمام. بس رحت لهنيك إنه you don't know how it's gonna look like. And the moment you get there, it's home. والله it was amazing.
Yeah.
Can't wait to go back.
It's also traumatizing though, because it is and it isn't. Like when I go back, well, I can't go back anymore because I'm banned. But when I was going back, like it looked, the first time I went back after leaving in 1983 when I was 13, it was shocking to see like the places that had been empty before were suddenly like not. And everything was just all these big buildings all around this beautiful, fabled, ancient city is kind of ugly, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, and Haifa is so, you know, Tara, I made a video in the summer called Akhaduha Mafrushi, and the Haifa is very interesting because, you know, Haifa serves as a stand-in in TVs and movies for Beirut. So like when an American TV show wants to make a show of a scene about, like, you know, killing a bunch of Muslim Arab terrorists in the streets of Beirut, you know, Lebanon doesn't let them in, and the Israelis do, and they tell them, oh, you can do it in Haifa. And the Hollywood people love doing it because it's an Arab city. It looks like an Arab city, you know, like you know, it's like we call up the Israeli Ministry of Tourism and you're like, we need an Arab looking city. They're like, yeah, we have a lot. How many do you need? 3, 4? How many do you need? We have a lot of them. So, I mean, you know, this kind of stuff is, but it's a reminder again that we are from there. We're just on a long vacation somewhere else right now, but we're all going to go home one day. Tariq, come down to Dearborn one day, man. We'll hang out. And thanks so much. We're proud of you, and thanks for joining us.
Nice to meet you, Tariq. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Susie, we're reaching the end of the hour here. Is there any last words you want to tell everybody? They can get both your books are available on Amazon and in independent bookstores and that kind of thing?
Yeah, all 3 of them, not both.
Oh, sorry. All 3 of them. See, I'm not, you know, listen, I didn't.
I forgive you for not having read my books, but just in front of everybody watching, Ahmed promised he was going to read the latest one. So
I will.
Everybody, please hold him accountable.
Wait, I read Mornings in Janine. I have not read Against the Loveless World. What's the third one?
It's the second one. It's
sorry. What's the third one that I don't know about?
The Blue Between Sky and Water.
Oh, the Blue Between. That's right. I do know that one. Okay. All right. Sorry.
There's also a poetry collection called My Voice Sought the Wind.
That's right. Okay. See. I mean, look, she's even more accomplished than I thought she was, which is not surprising. Every Palestinian has a lot of secrets that we never knew about. Well, Susie Abulhawa, thank you again for joining us. We love you. We're proud of you. Please keep doing what you're doing, and free Palestine.
And I love you guys. It's always a joy to talk to my people. Like, seriously, this is just awesome for us to have this like internal chat. And thank you for doing this, Ahmed. Like, thanks for bringing us together. Like, I feel like we don't do enough of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Susie. We love you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. Well, again, you were watching NGP Talks. That's New Generation for Palestine. Please, if you are a Palestinian American, go join our organization, ngpalestine.org. You can become a member. It is a network to empower each other and support each other here in America and to celebrate everything that we do. ngpalestine.org. You see the link on the bottom of the screen. All right, everybody, we love you. Please keep following us. Please follow Susie Abulhawa. Buy all her books. Support her as much as you can. I am Amr Zahir, and we will see you all.